Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ask Kati Anything. I'm your host, licensed marriage and family therapist, Katie Morton. I'm so glad that you're here. Today I am joined by an old friend of mine, Shira Lazar. She is an Emmy-nominated digital culture expert, entrepreneur, and host. She founded What's Trending. That's when I met her way back in the day. We'll talk about that. One of the first digital news brands to cover social media and the creator economy. She's launched Creators for Mental Health, which I am part of, and helped introduce the Creator Bill of Rights alongside Congressman Ro Khanna. Recognized by Fast Company, Variety, and Adweek, she hosts the AI Download and writes The Alpha, where she explores AI culture and the future of creators. Welcome, Shira.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here in Austin.
I know for South
Can I say that?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally
Know.
can.
Okay.
People know. Don't worry. Excited to see you.
Yeah,
I feel like I see you all the time.
I know. We see each other virtually.
Yes.
And on Google Meets.
All the time. I've known you, I don't even know, 10 years? 15 years?
It's been, What's Trending's been around since 2011.
And that's when I started YouTube.
Yeah.
So roughly,
around then. Isn't that wild?
It's crazy. We are the OGs of YouTube.
We are. What does an OG mean this day and age? I feel like you need to be in it at least, over a decade?
I think so. We definitely fit the bill. So you've been creating the online space for a long time. What originally pulled you in?
I wanted to be a broadcaster like Ryan Seacrest and Katie Couric and Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters. These are individuals I looked up to and watched growing up. And it was either I pursue local news or audition. And I wasn't going to do the local news route at the time when I came to LA. And the audition process, as you know, is really difficult, right? You're competing against so many people. But, way back then, it was just a different process. You didn't have your social media.
No.
So for me, digital, and when I discovered digital, it was really, at the time, just a way to practice my skills to hopefully get that other TV job. I didn't realize it was going to be the thing at the time. So that's really how I got into digital. I was, building out my reel and resume and just meeting everyone in LA as online was starting up in digital, and became a go-to host for the internet, basically.
Pretty much. I feel like you interviewed everybody. You were the only one doing
at the
that.
time. At the time I was one of the only hosts and interviewers, but then that translated into me interviewing a lot of these stars popping up. When it started, I was actually doing more entertainment news. And so I was doing a lot of like red carpets and all that.
I do remember you on red carpets.
Which I'm always down to do, but sometimes you feel like it can be a bit cringy, or it's just like you're begging people to talk to you. It's a lot if you've done red carpets on the other side.
I think I've done both sides.
Yeah.
I think it's weird as a person to walk along and not really know what people are going to ask you, even though your publicist is bringing you along.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, you have to know everybody and have some questions to ask them, and you have to be engaging. And some people are rude and like don't want to talk to everybody.
It's a whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And I was also covering a lot of entertainment news, so it lent itself into the gossip area, which I just was never really into. It didn't feel good. It felt a bit icky. So I guess more icky than cringy, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, as this space was coming up, and I was in it because I was in the online community, the startup community, I realized, well, I kind of like interviewing these individuals because they're entrepreneurial. There's a bit of an innocence, like there's an excitement when you talk to them, whereas celebrities are kind of over it.
It's true. That is the funny thing about social media when it was like we were coming up in that early age. I talked about this months ago. I had Grace Helbig on. We were talking about like the beauty of early social media, where it was a really small community.
Yeah.
I think that's why you knew everybody. Like you'd go to Playlist Live and we would all hang out together.
Yeah.
And you'd go to parties together, and it was growing, but it didn't feel like it. We were still close knit, and like you got to see your fans, and it was exciting to like you could keep up with everything.
Yeah.
It just was so much smaller and more innocent. We didn't really know. We were just a bunch of people doing something new.
Yeah.
And I had no expectations for it.
That's it. You don't have any expectations. When you start having that, it starts getting a bit more complicated when, I would say, the opportunities and the possibilities, and you're all trying to get different versions of that, and it becomes an industry and a business, and there's other people involved, and managers, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not that it actually is, that's supposed to simplify it, but it also makes it, in a way, more complicated. And we're all just more distracted and focused on so many things that, while we all love each other, it's hard to actually drop in and hang out unless we're in the same city or at an event. That's why I do love these types of events that bring us together, because otherwise we might not see each other for years.
Oh, totally. Even I used to joke, Hannah Hart back in the day, because she lived on the east side of LA and I lived in Santa Monica, and we would joke that like we saw each other at VidCons and playlists more than we would in LA.
Totally.
Because we also were working a lot. I mean, it's funny when anybody ever asks me about you, I'm like, she's a hustler. She will figure it out.
Me?
Yes.
I know everyone says I'm a hustler.
You
I'm
are.
a hustler, baby. Yeah. I mean, I think that I part of it is like stubbornness, where if someone tells me I can't, I kind of want to, once I have my tantrum of feeling like crap about it and just like, why isn't it easier? So I have that. I definitely have that self-deprecating downward spiral. Right?
As we all do.
Or self-loathing, maybe. And then the next day I'll wake up and be like, no, there's something that just, this like energy that comes
I will do it anyways.
I will do it anyway. And to prove to myself and others, I guess. But there's definitely that grit and resilience of, I just don't believe in I believe things take time and maybe you don't know the path.
Yes.
But I guess I never believe in the idea of like, it's just not possible, including when it's something that I could see it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's why I've always been part of things at the beginning. A lot of times I do see it before someone else does. And that's exciting, but also it can be challenging because you're going to people with these ideas and they're like, I feel like you're really enthusiastic about it. Like, you get it. I kind of, or it's just not a priority, which is real. We have so much going on, all of us. So,
okay. So what's trending?
So what's trending? Digital media brand and publisher. Started out as a live show, a talk show more, then we evolved into more of a company. And that came from my work becoming an interviewer, basically, and a host for social and the internet and digital stars and YouTube stars at the time. And then realizing there should be more of a talk show around it and around like social media and the stuff we were consuming. So that's how What's Trending, my company, came to be. And then, I had a very public split from a news organization, CBS News. And that was a very big turning point in my life and career that led me, I would say, a 10-year journey of, I would say, rediscovering myself and figuring out who I am without all of this, with all of it. And I would say half of that was also probably a bit of more unhealthy, unregulated behavior because I was so traumatized from this moment, and it really hurt me and hit me hard, brought up a lot of stuff. And it was like 5 years of just walking blind in a way. And then realizing into that, oh, this really impacted me and I need help and I can't navigate this alone. And I deserve to love myself and I am worthy. And then it took, I'm 42 now, I would say, until I was 40 to finally, it feels like, rebuild my confidence.
And it is, I'm 42 as well. I knew we were around the same age.
Yeah.
It is weird when you start something, when you build a business, and then it can feel, because we're so dependent on other people for things to work out. I mean, I remember, this is like a different scenario, but similar. I always wanted to be an author. Yeah. And I had hustled, me and my literary agent had hustled and hustled. And we got it to the point where we thought that there's going to be a deal on the table. And I won't name the publisher, but that's not the publisher I have. I'll just say that. And won't work with them. And then they were like, we're going to take it another direction. And I was devastated, like bawled my eyes out. I actually broke out. Like it, like physically, like was overwhelming to me. And then I was like, I had this moment of like, what the fuck am I doing? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think sometimes it doesn't work out the way that we think it's going to work out, but it works out a better way.
It does. And it's hard for us, I think, as just humans to let go of that control or how we want it to be, because in our heads, it feels like, oh, this is going to happen. This is what it is.
And everybody around us at the time, I don't know if this resonates with you, but I feel like creators at that time, it felt like everything was just success.
Yeah.
My path has been more like slow and steady wins the race. Yeah. There hasn't been any like viral moments.
I would say me too. There was definitely moments at the beginning where I was seeing like big pops. And even when I started What's Trending Partners Project, which was the first YouTube show that it was like a talk show.
I remember that's like
people
old
watching
school.
That know YouTube now. Colin and Samir, this, And so I had pops, and it definitely, I wouldn't say wasn't easy. I look back, of course, and I say, oh, now in hindsight, wow, I saw there was a curb, going up. And I think I had mini curbs going down, but the thing that happened was such an extreme drop. It was like going a little up and down, a little up and down to like literally crashing. And that crash was a lot for me to take on because of so many factors. Like one, I'd working so hard and then saying like, why did I work so hard if this was my destiny? I got into that existential mode, and that could put you in a really bad mental state because it feels like a lack of a sense of purpose, and that whatever you do, it doesn't even matter. That could put you in a bad place. And I think my nervous system couldn't handle it. It was too much. And it wasn't just what happened. It was in everyone's responses to it. And it hit all the things that were my triggers, which were like the need for validation, people pleasing. It was all the things that, of course, it brought up, which I didn't have any control of any of that. Everyone thought whatever they wanted to, despite my desire to control everyone's perception of me and be the best I could be in my industry and be revered and all this. And it took all that down, right?
Yeah.
With it.
All at once. Like
all at once. And it was so hard for me to wrap my head around that.
I recently read that more than 2/3 of adults caring for aging parents and their own children have considered leaving their jobs because of the emotional, financial, and mental toll of caregiving. And honestly, I get it. When a parent needs support, you want to be there. But between work, family, and just life, it can't always be you doing everything. That's where Care.com can really help. They make finding the right care feel a lot more manageable, from in-home caregivers to senior living communities. Care.com has safety and hiring tools that let you search for exactly what your loved one needs. Things like meal prep, companionship, or even support for dementia care. You can read real reviews and message background-checked caregivers without sharing your personal information up front. They also offer a senior care advisor plan, which includes 90 days of support from a master's level social worker who can help you create a personalized care plan. I'm partnering with Care.com because it really can make finding help easier. For a limited time, go to Care.com and use code Katie for 20% off your initial subscription or a senior care advisor plan. That's Katie, all one word. Care.com. When it's not you, it's Care.com.
And to get over it. And I think about it, when moments like that happen, depending on your own traumas and triggers and just like how you were born and all these things, as you know, you're a therapist, I feel like I could have these conversations. Another person might have dealt with it differently. It just based on who I was, it was really tough. And I think it would have been tough for a lot of people, but I had a lot of opportunities at the time to, do an exclusive, I had a lot of big media that were coming to me for all these interviews, and I could have taken advantage of it and gotten press and had that moment of comeback pretty quickly, or it would be more infamy where I was owning the story. And for me, I felt so embarrassed and ashamed and hurt by the thing. Like I felt heartbroken, really.
It was like a breakup.
It was a breakup, and it had happened without I felt like I have a lack of sovereignty over it. It happened without me being part of that decision, And so it was hard for me to take those opportunities, even if, but then again, that could have been perception opportunity where I could have been still struggling inside,
Totally. You could have faked it and been like, I come out of this, but inside you're still feeling.
And I went back to work, and that was amazing. And going back to work and just keeping my head down helped. And that was a lot of the advice people around me gave in terms of if you deal with a moment of cancel culture, you either retreat. I mean, my cancel culture wasn't one that was as problematic as some people.
I got canceled. It's okay.
It was a tweet that Steve Jobs, that a social media person I worked with, that had tweeted out something that was an incorrect thing that had come out in the newsroom and shouldn't have tweeted it out, should have verified it, or just not moved on. At any rate, so it was considering the world and what it is now. But at the time, you have to remember, we were one of the first digital projects that a news organization had done. So already we were the
easiest
rebels and misfits in this organization.
Yes.
And then add this and be they're causing too much trouble. See, they don't know what they're doing. It was a reason to
an easy way to be
cut us off. And so Yeah. Anyway, so that was a very big defining moment that led me, I really believe, again, to a greater purpose, right? Now you see it, right?
But in the moment, it still feels shitty. In the moment,
you're in the trenches, in the dark trenches of your life, and you're just like, why is this happening? What's the reason? I think now that I see the other sides of these things, every time something hits, even though you don't know where it's going, I tell myself, okay, I don't know what's happening here or why, but thank you, because I know something's going to come of this. I don't know what it is now, and this is super painful.
Yeah.
But I'm open to the lessons, whatever lessons are about to come from this dark dark night of the soul.
But that's a powerful perspective shift.
It's a reframe.
Yes, it's a beautiful
hard.
reframe. It's super hard, but it's like almost like a muscle in your brain you have to work out. Like the book didn't work out. Why didn't this work out? I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not meant to do this. And I'd have like that spiral out. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I putting all this time into this? Blah, I'm such a loser. Blah, like total spiral. But now I'm like, no, I don't think. I'm like, thank you. Yes, thank you.
You have to remind yourself that is a muscle too.
Yes.
Right.
I remember my therapist, she used to say like, and this is such a therapist-y thing. And sometimes I'm like, bleh, but I'm a therapist too, so I get it. But she said, how many times have you not survived and it hasn't turned out?
I know. Yeah.
And I'm like, you son of a bitch.
No, it's true. How many times like you've gotten through it?
Yep.
You can. And a lot of times it is our own fears and whatever our thing is.
It's our own shit, right?
It's our own shit coming up. Even for this event, on Sunday that you're going to be part of, I have so much shit that came up around it. And it's reminding myself, you've been there, you've done that, you've done hard things before. This is not going to be your first rodeo.
Yeah.
But your whatever self you have, your baby self, this whatever version of you that is freaking the fuck out is very active, and you have to. There's a lot of work as you're working. So you're doing all your external work, which is living life and just keeping everything
sending those emails and making those calls,
and then you have all this internal work that you have to do, and it's so easy to ignore that, but it's so part of your ability to be at peace with the external, as we know.
Which is so hard because that little part of you, younger Shira, younger Katie, all the buttons are being pushed.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I think when that happens, okay, wow, I'm stretching myself in a good way. There's the good and bad way of stretching yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm reminding myself that I could do these things even when every part of me is kind of maybe screaming. Maybe that sounds like you're putting yourself through torture, but it's also, you kind of need to throw yourself in the deep end to do things. 'Cause if you've been through a lot and you do know you have these kind of limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, anytime something is hard or challenging or presents itself as a vulnerable place to be, that you're putting yourself in a place that is, it could be a great win or it could be a loss. Like every bit of you will tell you probably your survival instinct, don't do it. But then that's where your growth is.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
It's like you have to do the thing you're afraid of.
Yeah.
Trusting that, and this is just me, I trust that like I wouldn't have this idea if it wasn't meant to be.
It's free. The idea is for you, and then you need to get out of your own way.
Pretty much, because like whether you believe in God or just spirituality or like the universe or whatever, there has to be other energy out there. Like, why am I dreaming of this? Why did I think of this?
Yeah.
Why did I want to do this? It didn't it was created for you, for me, and then we just have to let it happen.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen the way that we think, which is where it gets like, and then because I'm people pleaser and I have put a lot of self-worth into my like ability to be successful in business.
And self-pressure.
I have to hustle and earn my worth.
That's what I'm trying. Like, that's why when people say I'm a hustler, I try to hustle with ease and flow. Like in this iteration, I constantly remind myself, let this happen with ease and flow. It doesn't mean it's not hard or it's not going to be challenging, but let there be an ease and flow. Let me be okay with the difficulty instead of fight it and create drama around it and have to vent about it 24/7.
It's true though, because and it's hard when you feel like you're an island and you're like doing it all yourself.
That's also hard. Perspective is really important, and having other people around you, I would say, to validate what you're feeling. Say, yeah, you know what? This is hard. This is crazy. This situation is a bit crazy. I must say it'd be difficult for a lot of people. I feel like I need that validation to know I'm not.
Same. I'm not like overreacting.
Exactly.
Or freaking out.
Exactly. And then at the same time to be like, like, I'm telling you from an outsider's perspective, this is actually much better than you think. Like, I need both of those.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting because I remember that happening for you and thinking like, bummer, but she'll bounce back. Like that was my immediate thought.
Well, see, that was the external, whereas internally, you obviously don't know what someone's going through.
I didn't think of how like jarring that would have been because it's not happening to me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Well, sometimes that's why I say when you're experiencing that, you have to experience your experience, but then to think about it from someone else's perspective and how maybe watching you, they would be thinking like, or you watching someone else go through that, what would you be thinking?
Yeah.
And then maybe you wouldn't be so hard on yourself or maybe have better ideas about it.
No, it's because we're so internal, right? And we like have our own judgments that just exacerbates them. Yeah. But from the outside, I was like, oh, bummer, they're lost. Like essentially like.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to feel too. For me, I just felt it was more of such a heartbreak.
Yeah.
And
for it to happen overnight, to feel like,
it was so overnight.
And then
the rug was pulled. It was a rug pull moment.
And that's funding and
everything.
So, it's everything. Like that's the piece that like from the outside you forget because I'm not in the day to day.
Yeah. It was a domino effect of stress that impacted me personally, professionally, financially, my relationship at the time with my boyfriend, who was like my co-founder, my relationship with my dad, like my, who is an entrepreneur who helped come in. Like it became a decade of mishmash.
Yeah.
That it was like a knot, like a very big knot that I had to undo.
Yeah. Well, because it's so personal.
Yeah.
Really. Because those are all your biggest personal relationships.
Yes.
Your dad, your boyfriend, everything. Well, and that's the thing. And I think back in the day, and I'm sure still now, but with social media, we just start businesses without realizing we're starting businesses with people in our life. Like Sean and I were dating at the time. We're married now. Luckily, our relationship is great, but like that could have been a shit show.
Yes.
And then you have a brand, quote unquote brand. I'll always remember BF versus GF and talking to Gina.
I was just with Jesse.
And it's funny. And they're both lovely and I've loved them for a long time, but it was just such an interesting. I remember him meeting us and he's like, never put yourselves on camera. He's like, you keep doing your thing, Katie. Sean, you say like, don't do that. It's going to mess up your relationship.
It's very rare that it works.
It's like, it's real reality TV to put your relationship out there like that. It's like, it's messy.
Yeah.
So I just say that to say like, it gets really messy really quick. Yeah. Was that, do you think the downfall of the CBS What's Trending relationship, do you think that was the catalyst for creators for mental health?
Yeah, I mean, a decade later.
Yeah,
because
I never connected the two, but now we're talking. I'm like,
I do think because what happened was, for 5 years, I think it was a mess and then finally I started getting help and therapy again, and then I started this introspection, which also I think hitting your mid-30s is kind of all comes.
Yeah, there, I'm like, who am I? What am I doing?
Exactly, and so I did my own personal growth journey. I was, reading and traveling and doing workshops and getting some professional help.
You've probably noticed that there's a lot of noise around weight loss right now. Different trends, medications, opinions, and it can make it really hard to know what information is actually trustworthy or right for your body. And I want to say this up front, everyone's health journey is different. For some people, weight loss may be something they're exploring with their doctor. And for others, especially those recovering from eating disorders, it may not be a healthy focus at all. What matters most is finding care that's thoughtful, personalized, and medically supported. That's one of the things I appreciate about Weight Loss by Hers. Through Hers, you can connect with a licensed medical provider online who helps determine whether treatment is appropriate for you. And if it is, they work with you to create a personalized plan designed around your goals and your health history. Hers also goes beyond medication. They offer ongoing care, possible dosage adjustments, nutrition and lifestyle guidance, and tools to help track things like movement, hydration, and sleep, plus access to 24/7 support. And it's all done 100% online, so providers can learn your story and help you work toward steady, sustainable progress. Feel like your best self again. Visit forhers.com/Katie to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's forhers.com/Katie. Forhers.com/Katie. Weight Loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions.
Yeah, so I did my own personal growth journey. I was, reading and traveling and doing workshops and getting some professional help. And then I went on a really life-changing trip to Everest, Mount Everest base camp.
But still, hey,
the base camp.
Anything at Mount Everest is impressive.
And that was pretty life-changing, as you can imagine, and physically and emotionally challenging. And a lot of the conversations I was having with people about just the things I was discovering, these juicy conversations, I was having it behind the scenes, and I couldn't wrap my head around how I could merge it into my work life and without just dropping everything. And it was a possibility. I said, okay, maybe this is the next iteration of my career. Like the pop culture, what's trending is not me anymore. I have this, but what does that actually mean? And during COVID, actually, I started a virtual wellness studio with a friend of mine, Jordana, who I did that trip with. And that was Peace Inside Live.
You did the trip with her.
Yeah, so that was her trip. We started Peace Inside Live, which at the time, so at that point, it's COVID. I have what's trending that I own. I actually am hosting a daily radio show in LA from home now. So that's a few hours a day. And then I'm also doing this virtual wellness studio where we have classes every day. And while I'm on the radio, I'm getting pinged to let people into the Zoom room. Like it was crazy, but it was wild. Like it was fun. And it was a space that I really loved and I was passionate about. Did that for a bit. And really it was that led to Creators for Mental Health, because I had the opportunity in 2024 to do an event with a brand. And instead of it necessarily being Peace Inside Live, because at that point it kind of, plateaued. We had done a lot of corporate wellness during COVID, but
everybody was looking for that. The amount of talks I did virtually is like crazy.
But then it kind of teetered off, and then it was becoming like almost like we were getting burnt out from pitching wellness.
Isn't it? Sean and I will forever joke. YouTube gave us a grant to do a whole series on burnout, and we were so burnt out. Like I was burnt out from burnt out.
Exactly. And so we were pitching all this wellness stuff, and it was so much work. And anyway, so I had this opportunity to do an event, and it was around mental health and then for creators. And so I said, why don't we just call it Creators for Mental Health? Let's make it simple.
Yep.
And that went really well in 2024. We did another one in New York. And then I went into 2025 saying, I think I want to make this into something. Like, I think it's like the reason everything came together in this one moment of, oh, now I see. Now it all makes sense.
That's why.
And I needed to experience all of that. Obviously, would I have liked it to be easier? But I do believe really a lot of my pain and struggle and my own stuff I'd been through has made me now even in a better place to do this work.
100%.
Right? I mean, I wouldn't have started. I wouldn't have the inspiration. And also, I'll just add, I was, with Bart. Remember Bart?
I do.
Yeah. My ex, another ex. How many exes am I going to go through on this podcast? Another ex.
It's been like 15 years in your defense.
Yes, thank you. He also, and he's very open about his struggles with mental health and addiction, and he's now in a good place. But besides what I'd gone through, witnessing what he went through, and then with YouTube and all that, I would just say all of that made me realize the importance of that we needed these support systems. And there was just such a lack of it. Like there was this industry around us who's there for us, obviously, when we're on our rise and successful and to build our businesses. But there's a total gap in actually what that means to take care of us and ourselves. And so that's what I'm trying to do with Creators for Mental Health.
I think it should exist in general. Yeah. I mean, obviously, but it's just interesting because the thing that I think I didn't realize when I got into this line of work, because I didn't think of it as this was going to be a business for me. I was like, I'm just putting things on the internet. Is that unlike regular TV or other entertainment where they film a show and then they're done.
Yeah.
Or they film their episodes and then they go dark.
Yeah, but they have a break.
We don't have that.
Yeah, no.
And people expect you to keep creating. And we've unfortunately, myself included, signed up for that. And I continue to sign up for that.
We normalize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is years ago, Elle Mills had a very public burnout breakdown. And because she created these her videos are amazing, but to do that all the time, week after week or even month after month is exhausting and it leaves no room for you. And so when you'd reached out, I guess, was it 2024, 2025 about Creators for Mental Health? I was like, well, obviously this should exist. of all the things our ecosystem needs is that. So tell me a little bit about how you set it up, or what people, what does it mean for creators like me?
In essence, Creators for Mental Health is an organization bringing mental well-being tools to the creator economy through events, research, content, education, and services. So yeah, we want to bring this into the foundation of the industry, because if we're going to be the next, well, really not just job work, we're a workforce, we're a workplace. So in any other industry, they think about these things
100%.
For some reason. And guess what? It's even harder for us because we don't have the HR, we don't have the perks. We're all in the gray area of the 1099s, and we're freelancers basically. But against the backdrop of an industry that's making billions of dollars and raising a ton of money against our work. So that's where I would say the discrepancy is, right? A lot of times there's a lot of other industries that have freelancers, but they're not necessarily an industry that's one of the fastest growing industries in the world, where they're monetizing off the things that you're doing. And I would put, again, creative freelancers in this. Like, I think a creator is anyone who is making a certain amount of money that supports them on social media platforms and through digital mediums, right? And so you could be a video creator, as we are, a photographer, you could be a graphic designer. All of that is, you are a content creator.
I mean, think about it.
And then of course there's the people that work around us and the people that work at the companies. I would say I want them to be thinking about their mental health too, but kind of like how there's this company Backline, this organization, nonprofit, that supports the music industry and also the people around those musicians, because they get impacted by the lifestyles also of these individuals. So I see that for musicians, I see that for actors, and yet this new growing industry, which is the new creative industry and entertainment industry, has none of that. So that's what this is trying to solve. And there's a lot of ways we're doing that. As I mentioned, kind of those different, ways. There are pillars. The pillars are, though, because we do have pillars.
I would say there are pillars.
There are pillars. Self-community advocacy. So the work starts with self, then we get to support our communities and their mental health and how we talk about mental health, as well as advocacy and advocating for better mental health overall for all of us.
Amazing work, by the way.
Thank you. You're part of it. Thank you for your support.
Always, of course. And I think you are correct that other industries have this kind of support. And if somebody works at a larger corporation, there's a setup with HR and benefits, and that's just not the structure for what we do. And a lot of people prefer to be 1099 and don't want to be employees because they want the flexibility and the creativity to do what they want. So then you fall through the cracks because you don't really have all of the resources.
True. And now I'm trying to get people to think of us as small business owners.
Yes.
Also. So I think that in general, it's going from this random job or we're doing random things on the internet, very cute, to, okay, no, we're a small business class. And that's where the Creator Bill of Rights comes in, where we want to be acknowledged as this so we can get certain perks too. And guess what? In general, I do believe the nature of work is changing. And so we need to be building systems that support that. 100%. And a lot of this is about the creators. We're just a tip of the iceberg for what that looks like.
Yes. And I agree with you, because we are the largest growing piece of the economy.
Yeah.
Like when we were trying to get some members of Congress to sign on to have a Congressional Creators Caucus, that essentially was just to have Congress acknowledge us and to think of us when they write different legislation and when bills go to get passed. We want them to be like, hey, I know what this means. And I know that sounds really simple and easy to us because we're like, well, duh, we were here. But we had zero representation. We don't have a tax code. There's a thing called a NICS code that you need to like file your taxes. We don't have it. Yeah. You're like, are you entertainment? Oh, you're not? Are you education? Well, are you a teacher? It's like there was no category. And so we just wanted to have, it sounds like a seat at the table, but that's not really what it is because we aren't part of it. We just wanted Congress to consider us. And that took us 3 years to get that to even come to fruition. And then
the caucus. Yeah. And now it's like, what do we do with it?
Yes.
And then getting them to even get it. But guess what? They do get it because when they want to promote what they're doing, they get why we're important and our platforms. So I don't understand why they don't get why it's important to understand how we work and supporting that.
And how to help that.
So that's what I'm trying to also showcase in this work, that importance of going behind the scenes. Like, you use us as mouthpieces and megaphones. Now ask us how we're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that.
And that's the saying. I do go around saying that, but it's important because when you say it like that, they're like, oh, well, you care about the, I don't know, electricians or metal maker, like
welders,
or I don't know. There's any industry you could think of that you're like, yeah, or car makers or this or that. Like, well, why not this industry? So yeah, once you give the numbers, like the 1.5 million Americans in the US that do this, how it's going to be a $500 billion industry by 2030 and how fast it's growing. The hope is, I would get it and understand why it's important for the economy that I represent as whether it be a local or more state, federal lawmaker, and then also realizing the next generation, this is the way that they're going to be working.
Yeah.
In some way, everyone's going to be a creator. Mm-hmm. So it's important. It's key. But it's happening. We're just really, again, like we were in the trenches at the beginning. This is a new version of that.
Yeah.
We're at the bottom in a good way, but building the frameworks. And that's exciting, but it also means like that's where the hard work is. And it's very, I would say, thankless. Like, it's not where you're getting brand, this is not a brand deal. This is the service work that needs to be done to build the core of this industry
like
for the next generation.
Right?
This is the infrastructure moment.
It's like when one of my friends bought a house and they had to redo the pipes. And he's like, it's the most unsexy thing. And you can't even tell that we did it. But it is done. And it's one of those things, you have to have that foundation laid so that it's going to function correctly so that people can be supported.
Exactly. So this is for us, what we've wanted in the next generation. So that's the work. I feel like all my work and what I've experienced has led me to this moment. And I've always wanted to feel like more purposeful with the work that I'm doing. And I do feel there's a sense of, even though it's chaotic and stressful sometimes, like I feel like what I'm doing feels important. I want it to feel important. Like that's what feels good for me.
Yeah. It's impactful work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's what's happening right now with Creators for Mental Health, the Creator Bill of Rights, and so much of what we're doing. And it's fun to see the responses that people are saying, oh, I need this. And then the next thing is, well, how do you actually deliver and make it sustainable for also the organizers of it, as we know?
No, it is tricky. It's like continual funding.
Yeah.
And having people spread the word and reach out. Yeah. And it's getting that in place and then sustaining it. But it's really been cool to watch it grow.
Oh, thank you. And, little by little.
Yeah, but I know it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And, you've been like really hustling. So
I'm the hustle.
Hey, you're a hustler.
It's the... Every time I think about that song when you say that, but I don't think there's a negative connotation around hustler, like girl boss in a way.
Oh, I just think like
sometimes
you'll find a way.
Have that, but I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's this idea of that. Yeah, when there's a will, there's a way. We all know this work is important, but especially having done this study and the Creator Mental Health study, we found the data was there, right? All of us are talking about this, but I needed to have data. So we did the study and some, I would say, non-surprising stats. I mean, financial instability, we're feeling a lot of that. We're feeling burnout. We're looking at our stats too much and needing to check on that. And that actually creates a negative well-being score. Not surprising there, same. And then 1 out of 10 creators have suicidal ideation based on their work, which is double the national average.
Wow.
So that's such a tragic number for me. And then 9 out of 10 have no specific support. So hello, this is the reason why we do what we do and why it's key right now. And we needed that. So that will help inform now the work moving forward.
And that study, I mean, it's really well done, and I'm not surprised by the results.
Same,
but I'm also bummed about them because I wish it wasn't so.
Yeah.
Even though that's my personal experience as well.
Totally. It was validating for a lot of people, and sharing that everyone said, "Oh, finally, yes." Okay, now what?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, agreed. Okay, what do we do?
So yeah, when I share it with people, whether it be companies, brands, platforms, who are like, yeah, we want to support creators. I go, okay, look at this study and then let's have a conversation. Yeah. What are you going to do?
This is what we're going through.
Yeah.
How are you going to help us?
And we have solutions as part of it. We did ask people, which is said, more financial stability options, peer support, maybe specialized therapy, And also like some sort of transparency from the brands and the platforms as well. And communication from platforms.
Yes.
Being able to connect with someone and actually talk to them when you're going through something.
Yeah, because they're like non-existent.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up.
Yeah.
What do you think Shira in 2011 would think of Shira now?
Wow, like I wouldn't have seen this coming, right? Like this whole everything that happened. I think that she would be proud of her. She would have just said, wow, we've been through it. Yeah, we've been through it. And just saying, thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for pushing through.
It never works out the way that we think it's going to work out, but it does work out.
It does. Yeah. You have to just know that there needs to be some faith, and just knowing whatever you're going through, on the other side of it is a lot of beautiful things.
It's better than you could have imagined.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for spending time with us. I know you got to run. South by is calling, but
I know. I appreciate you, and thanks for having me and for all the work, and just continuing to support this. And
yeah, anytime. It was really great having Shira on, and she had to scoot back to South by Southwest, but there are a couple pieces I really wanted to touch on here. And the first is that when we put our value or our worth outside of what we call in therapy our locus of control, which really just means outside of ourselves, like we put it onto other people. What we were talking about when it comes to the creator space is when we put our value into our analytics, right? How many views we're getting, how many followers we have, or subscribers. Whenever we give other people or things that are outside of our control all that power over us, it puts us in a very vulnerable position, right? So even if you aren't a creator, if you're allowing your boss at work to dictate how you feel about who you are, or the people you're in relationships with, if you allow them to affect your self-worth or your confidence, that means that you don't have any control over that. And so something that I've learned over the years, and kind of what Shira and I touched on, is that it's really valuable for us to bring that control or power back inward, meaning that I get to decide how I feel about me. And there's been a couple of things that I've done purposefully to kind of mitigate this. Is number one, for me, I don't look at analytics as much because I've done the work I can do, and it's not going to help me if I look at that. So if you are a creator, I encourage you to do the same. If you're not, I encourage you to maybe not ask for as much outside validation as maybe you want to. Maybe look inward. And so to that end, okay, so I don't look at analytics, or maybe we're not going to ask other people how they feel or think about us. Then the second piece is that I'm going to spend time saying nice or kind things to myself. And I talked about this when I had the podcast a couple of weeks ago with Andra about mirror work. And it sounds really woo-woo, or it sounds really silly. You can journal, basic journaling, things that you're grateful for, things that you like or appreciate about yourself. You can do it that way. But I find looking in the mirror and saying to myself, you're enough as you are. You don't have to earn this. You don't have to work harder to prove to someone that you're worthy, or that you're good enough, or that you are deserving of their love and care. And those things sound really simple, but we so often don't say them to ourselves, and more importantly, don't believe them about ourselves. And so I think that's a big important piece when it comes to our self-worth and when it comes to our internal validation. And so often we get pulled into what other people are saying or thinking, because even if you're just a person who posts things about your family online, if someone leaves a nasty comment or something that's kind of passive aggressive, that can affect us, right? And so in order to make ourselves almost like bully proof, we have to say kind things to ourselves so we know who we are, regardless of what someone else thinks. Does that make sense? And so we pull that kind of confidence or self-worth, we pull it from the external into our internal locus of control, because that's what we can actually manage. That's something that we can actually change for the better. And I will tell you that it has changed my life to be able to not only do the mirror work, I actually journal and do mirror work. I have to hit it with a double whammy to get those negative thoughts out, right? Keep them at bay. But both of those things together have really helped me manage the fact that things that people have thoughts about me and want to say things about me on the internet, but they don't know me, and they don't know my heart. I know my heart. They don't know, who I am in real life. I know who I am. And it sounds really silly to say it that way, but I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we know who we are. Somebody in our life can say whatever they want, but we know who we are. And so I just wanted to bring it back to that, because when Shira was talking about the research that we found and how a ton of creators, feel poorly about themselves or have suicidal thoughts based on performance and all of the things that came out of that creator-based study. And I can link it in the description. You can look up the stuff yourself, but it really is I don't know what you call it, but like the thread that weaves through the commonality between all of those kinds of symptoms is that we have put our value or our worth outside of ourselves. And that can be really dangerous. And another piece I want to mention is that through Shira's story, we learned that early on, she thought she wanted to be a newscaster. She wanted to do interviews and she wanted to, talk about what was happening in the world, right? She wanted to be Ryan Seacrest. And what's trending thrived for a long time. But then she had that moment, almost like, when you're watching a movie, it's like that big event happens and we think, oh no, our hero is down and out. Something bad has happened and they can't come back. But then it turned out better than she would have imagined. She said that, younger Shira would be really proud of Shira now. And she'd also be like, see, it worked out. And I think I want that. I'm hoping that message lands with you, because I know that for myself, when things aren't working out the way that I thought, when things take turns that I didn't foresee, I can feel really hopeless and I can feel really helpless. And I've learned myself, like I mentioned with Shira, that like, if I decide to stay down, if I decide to allow that hiccup or that hang up to hold me back and to make me feel like I'm nothing, then I will feel that way. And I can stay down for a long time as a result. However, if I recognize, hey, that happened, it doesn't have to define me. Or in Shira's case, like, hey, maybe there's another opportunity, right? It took her in a direction she would not have foreseen and could not have planned. And I would argue even in my own life, it always turns out better than I could have even thought. And I know it doesn't help in the moment. I don't want to sit here and pretend to tell you that like, oh, but it'll be fine and just know that it's going to work out. I know in those dark moments that doesn't necessarily make us feel better, but I will tell you that it is at least a little flicker of hope to see through it, to know that I can get through this tough time because life has a way of working out. Like I said, my therapist used to ask me, how many times have you not survived? And it's kind of like such a therapist thing to say, kind of tongue in cheek, but she's right? We've always worked through, you're here watching and listening to me today, which means that you've always survived all of the ups and downs of life and all the things that's thrown your way before. What makes you think that this is so different? And sometimes we have to remember that life has our back, that it will work out. And I can, testify to the fact that it's always worked out better than I would have imagined. And Shira, she said the same. It's like, it's so different than what she would have ever planned. But after 10 years, she's really proud and she's really excited. And I just want that message to hopefully really land with each and every one of you, that if you are in that dark time, if you feel like you're down and out, you're spiraling out, you're wondering, what the hell am I doing? Who am I? Why did this happen? I want you to know that it can be the catalyst for great change, because I know personally, without great strife or struggle, I'm often not pushed or forced to work harder or to see things from a different perspective, right? And I know that kind of sucks. I wish things could be easy peasy lemon squeezy all the time, but life has to challenge us so that we are pushed to grow. And it's through that discomfort in that growth that we really become who we're supposed to be. And so I'd love to hear from you. What have been your dark moments that have turned out better than you could have ever imagined? What kind of difficult spaces have you been through that now you see, like Shira, okay, it came full circle and now I'm here? Share that in the comments, because I really think sometimes we can get really caught up in the difficult times, in the tough spaces, and forget that there's still hope. You might not even know this full story, but I just want to tell you so that you can see that it does get better, that I got out of graduate school, you guys know, and was earning my hours towards licensure, and I was super, super broke. I was making like no money and I was working all these jobs, and I was so stressed out and I couldn't even pay the minimum on my student loans. And I was like crying. I felt like, what did I do? Like, I put all this effort in. Again, like, what the fuck is happening? Did I make the wrong choice? Maybe I'm in the wrong space. And it took me down to this like deep pit. And at that time, I had started dating Sean. I'd been dating him for maybe about a year. And through him, I met a friend. She was dating another one of his friends. Her name was Alex. And she told me that she was a pharma sales rep. You guys know I was a sales rep for a period of time. This is how it happened. She told me about this job. She's like, you'd be really great at it. And it could be a great way for you to like, pay down your student loans. I don't know. And she let me shadow her. And through that, I was able to get a job. It just all fell into place. Again, I could give you all of the details, but I think it's more important to realize that like life's got our back. It rolled out the way that it was supposed to. I was able to get that job, pay for Sean and I's wedding, pay down my student loans. We needed furniture for our apartment. I was able to buy us a table and just things in life that I needed at the time until I got my license and could open my practice. And then I was able to quit that job and move on. And then obviously create this YouTube channel and all of that. And that job actually gave me, the ability to get my head above water so that I could do this. And I think everything always works out for a reason. That's just one of like many miracles in my life. And I'd love to hear some miracles from your life, because I think, again, we can get so down and out. We can be so focused on the negative when there's actually a lot of great things that have happened. And we just overlook them. And the interesting piece, and the last thing I want to leave you with, is the reason that it can be so difficult for us to overlook the bad things and not focus on the good is that the good things aren't threatening. Right? That miracle, the fact that I was able to get this job that like got me health insurance and was able to pay on my loans and do this stuff, that feels good. That's easy. That's not scary. My nervous system doesn't feel overwhelmed, right? But when I'm down and out, when I can't pay my bills, when I'm super stressed and I'm crying in my bedroom, that is threatening. And my nervous system lights up and it remembers and it wants to focus on that so that we can figure out a way out of it, right? And so I just want you to know that if you feel like you can't see out, I want you to instead try to shift your focus from the now, the here and now, and into the last time that things did work out, or into the time before where things did work out, or the thing that you already survived, because we often discredit and downplay the good because the bad feels more threatening. And we call it negative bias in psychology, but it's really just our body's way of trying to protect us, right? It doesn't need to focus on the good because that stuff's fine and it's not damaging. It needs to focus on the bad so it can figure it out. And so I just try to combat that. I try to push back and remind myself of how everything has worked out. And usually it works out better than I could have imagined, and often different than I would have ever planned. But that's the beauty of life, right? I would never have thought I'd be creating this YouTube channel or even have a podcast and be here with you today. So I'd love to hear your miracles, your turnarounds, the things that worked out in a way you could have never foreseen in those comments down below. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Sorry for the stuffiness of me, but just getting over a cold. I love you. Have a good, wonderful week. Do your homework, and I'll see you next time.